What's going on, people? I know it's been a while, but I felt inspired to make this video in light of the recent news that's kind of came out, the writing on the wall, should I say. You know, being a diehard fan, it always hurts when your team loses a really good player that you're a fan of. And when you're a diehard fan, when you lose a player that you've put on a pedestal, among others, a player that you've grown to idolize and love over the years, it's a much harder pill to swallow. It really is. For a while, I've been holding out hope that Steven Jackson will return to the Rams and re-sign to a new deal after his void of his contract, which was inevitable because we weren't going to keep him making $7 million. But after hearing what Steven had to say on a radio station today, it was really writing on the wall, and more should I say what the Rams have in store for Steven. You know, Steven loves and prides himself on being the workhorse, the bell cow, as he's quoted saying. You know, loves being the guy that's that does it all in the running back position: pass block, pass catch, run. You know, in for the play actions, in for everything, and he can do it. And I respect his decision to probably go elsewhere because the Rams said that they were going to do a running back by committee, which would indeed drop his carries, drop his touches, drop his snaps. Now, last year, it wasn't necessarily a running back by committee. It was more of Steven Jackson, the bell cow. There was times when Daryl Richardson would take some carries away from Steven, but that was when he had his little injury. But, you know, by the end of the season, Steven still had, 250 rushes and like 40 catches, close to that. So still a healthy dosage. But it's clear that the Rams told him that they said, they want him back, but they didn't want to give him, all the touches. They want to do a running back by committee, which Steven doesn't want to have. So that's pretty much writing on the wall that Steven is probably out of St. Louis. And it's tough for me, it really is. I've been through this before with players that I hold on a pedestal, with Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce. The way they departed, it really hurt at the time, just like it does now for Steven. And it just sucks. It really does right now. I mean, you always wish that players like that, like Torrey and Isaac and Steven, you always wish that they can finish their career with the team they started, the team that so many fans idolized and made them heroes of, basically. But you gotta understand the NFL is a business. Always gotta think about that. Without dragging on this video for 2 hours, because I can go on every Steven Jackson moment and thought in my head, and just be brief with my description of my fanhood with him. You see, when we drafted him in 2004, I was a huge Marshall Faulk fan at the time, still am. But I was a little disappointed because, I was like 13 years old. I didn't really understand as much that Marshall had to get some carries taken away from him. And that's basically what Steven did. He came in to replace Marshall Faulk. They were a two-headed monster in 2004. Marshall had the majority of the carries and touches at the start of the year. But as the season went on, they started to give Steven some more touches, which he deserved. At the time, I wasn't too happy with it, though, because I was such a big Marshall Faulk fan. 2005 rolls around. Steven Jackson is the starting running back. Marshall Faulk is reduced to a third down back role. And that was tough for me that year, especially because, I still say this now. Marshall Faulk really could still be a very effective player back then. But it was Steven's time. I wouldn't regret that decision right now. So, Marshall Faulk retires, and Steven Jackson puts up the huge 1,500-yard year and 900 yards receiving year that he had in 2006, and you can't help to be a fan of him then. I'm definitely a fan of him then. Like 06, 07, 08, I am a big fan of Steven Jackson. I don't hold him on the pedestal that I hold Torrey, Isaac, and Marshall Faulk on yet. But 2008, he signs that contract to stay with this team after coming off a 3-13 year. Right then, the respect for him moved up a lot. So Steven, great player, Pro Bowler at the time. I loved him. Then, 2009 rolls around, and this is when I really became the diehard fan of Steven Jackson that I am today. Steven, is at the peak of his condition. He's at like 245 pounds, 5% body fat, and still is running that like 4.4, 4.5 flat speed. And you know, he had a great start to the year on that terrible 1-15 team, coming off that 2-14 year in 2008, and had a pretty bad herniated disc in his back. You know, a little more than halfway through the season. And you know, we were done at the time. We were done, and that is a very painful injury, especially for a running back that has to take a pounding. And you know, Steven, you know, on that shitty team, he still wanted to play, still wanted to come out there and do his thing. The last, you know, 4 or 5 weeks of the year that he had that injury, when he didn't need to, they could have put him on IR and finished it. But right then, I got a full dose of respect for Steven Jackson, and that's when I knew right then. I was like, this guy is a warrior. I mean, he was a warrior, you know, the years before, played through injuries, but this time, I mean, I was like, you know, this team's finished in the water, and he is not giving up on this team. He's coming out here for these fans and showing up, and that's when I got the total respect for Steven. 2009 is when I put him up there with Torrey, Isaac, and Marshall in my book as my 4 favorite Rams of all time. And to this day, when people ask me, you know, who's my favorite Ram ever, I can't tell them that. I always tell them there's that 4. There is that 4. You know, right now I'll say it's Steven. But, you know, 2 months from now, if I watch a Torrey Holt video, I'll say it's Torrey. And then same thing with Isaac and Marshall. It's always those 4. Yeah, so that's basically where my fanhood of Steven Jackson started, you know. Was not as big of a fan when he came in because I was such a big Marshall Faulk fan. I didn't want him losing touches. And at the time, there was tension between Marshall Faulk and Steven Jackson. Both players really kind of had tension. But then, you know, when Steven started you know, 05 through 2008, he was one of my favorite players on the team. He was a great electrifying player. How couldn't he be? But, you know, when he really took that leadership role in 2009, and that warrior mentality that I noticed from that injury that he played through, when that team was in the water, sitting duck in the water, really gained respect for him. And then, of course, he continued that 2010, 2011, 2012. You know, just really love the player. Just a warrior. That is the word. He is the beast. He is the warrior. He is the train. Steven Jackson. Now, of course, I would have liked to bring him back with the same role he had last year. I wouldn't have, you know, wanted to give him 350 touches. But, you know, the same thing, give him like 275, 300. Same thing he had last year. But we obviously said that we're going to reduce his role even more. And he didn't want to do that, and I'm fine with that because he really has the ability to continue to go out there and get 300 touches a season. He really does. And wherever he goes, whether it's Green Bay, Denver, maybe Indianapolis, Atlanta perhaps, he's going to, you know, have success with those teams. And as long as he's not with those division rivals and maybe New England, I'm going to root for his success and for his team to win, unless it gets in the way with my Rams, of course. But, you know, just really great player, and I'm just thrilled to have seen him play and seen him grow as a player. It's really amazing. And one more thing. You know, everyone says he wasted his talents here because the teams were so bad. I don't say it like that. You know, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, a lot of those years, there was not much to watch on Sundays. There was not much to go out there and want to watch the Rams for. But Steven Jackson was the constant that we had. The fans had someone to watch on Sunday, and that was Steven Jackson. If he wasn't there, I don't know why I would have even watched in like 2009. I really don't. And, you know, same thing with like 2011. So just great player. All the thanks in the world to him for, you know, playing his ass off, not making a peep through that whole losing effort that we've had, you know, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, you know, 2011, and so on and so forth from the past. Didn't make one peep. Did his thing on Sunday, did his thing in the community. Just great player, great person. Good luck elsewhere, Steven. We'll be rooting for you.